All right, this lesson is over lines. And key components of lines is the slope. And by definition, it takes 2 points in order to create a line. So, in order to calculate the slope, again, you have to have 2 points. All right, so the slope formula itself is presented as the change in the y values over the change in the x values of the points. So let's say you have point 1. Point 1 is x1, y1. Point 2, x2, y2. And what I mean by to find the slope, which is denoted by the lowercase m, and this little definition down here in this box. And what I mean by change in y values is the difference in the y values over the change in the x values, meaning the difference in the x values. And the order itself for whether 1 or 2 comes, whichever comes first, that doesn't really matter as long as you make sure you have y2 over x2 and y1 over x1. All right, so let's move on over into some examples and whatnot. So I said earlier that it takes 2 points to create a line, and it takes 2 points to calculate the slope. In this example, we'll call this point -1, 4 as point 1. Point 2 is the point -2, 3. And it just simply asks you to find the slope of the line containing those points. Calculating the slope, we have slope is denoted by the change in the y values, y2 minus y1 over the change in the x values. Those y values, the y values are 4 minus -3. And the x values are, let me go in the order of the formula there in the way that I wrote it, so that I don't confuse anyone. And then I'll show you that the order didn't necessarily matter. So the y2 is -3 minus 4 over x2, and wow, look at that mess I wrote down there at the bottom. I should say x1. I'm glad one of y'all caught it. All right, -3 minus 4, and x2 is 2 minus -1. And let's simplify this. You have -7 in the numerator over +3 in the denominator. So your slope is -7/3. And like I told you before, the order doesn't matter. This will be the only time that I show you the change in direction. So let's say we did 4 minus -3 over -1 minus +2. In the numerator, you get +7 over -3. At the end of the day, both of those are still -7/3. All right. Now, this is the point slope form for the equation of the line. I generally like to write it where it's already with my point on the other side of the equal sign 100%. So normally what I would do with the point slope is say y equals m times x minus x1 plus y1. That's normally the move that I would take. I'm going to write it up here where I have more space. Y equals m times x minus x1 plus y1 for point slope for the equation of a line. All right. And here you can see that the slope is still denoted by the lowercase m right there. and you have x1 and y1 right there. So in order to use the point slope, you got to have a point and a slope. All right. The variables with no subscripts, meaning they don't have any numbers at the bottom of them, they will remain variables. The variables with subscripts, the ones that have numbers, those are the ones that you will replace with the values from points. All right, so this problem says find the equation of a line with slope -3 and containing the point -1, 4. All right, so we have, using the point slope, y equal m times x minus x1 plus y1. This y stays the same. The slope, they said, is -3, so I'm going to plug that in, times x minus x1 from the point given plus the y value. So we have y equals -3 times x plus 1 plus 4, and go through and distribute that -3. And you get y equal -3x minus 3 plus 4. Combine the like terms. Point slope form always leads to slope intercept form. But we'll get there in a second. All right. Let's move into another example. Find the equation of the line containing the points -1, 4 and the point 3, -1. And it says graph the line. All right, so first thing it says find the equation of a line. In order to find the equation of a line, you have to have the slope of that line that goes through those points. We don't have the slope present, but we know how to calculate the slope because we have 2 points. And to calculate that slope, we have m, it's the change in y values over the change in x values. And that's how we'll get the slope. And in order to get the equation of the line, we will plug that into the point slope formula. Point slope form, I'm sorry. All right, and that's a y. y1. All right, so first thing we're going to do is calculate the slope. Changing the y values. We got 4 minus -1 over -1 minus +3. We have a slope of 5 over -4. Slope is -5/4. We take that slope, plug it into the point slope form, and we have -5/4 times x. And here's the beauty of this: you get to pick whichever point you want to use as the point you want to plug into your function. And so I'll just choose this other one here, plus -1. I chose the second point, and then simplify. After you simplify, you're just going straight through here. We have -5/4 x plus 15/4 minus 1. And then the final simplification, y equals -5/4 x plus 11/4. So there is the equation of the line. And it wants us to graph the equation of the line. It gave you the points. So if you don't feel comfortable with using the equation to graph yet, just use the points. So your first point was -1, 4. So I'm going to go to the left 1 time. I'm going to go up 4 times. And I'm going to plot that point. -1, 4. That's the first point. -1, 4. And the second point was 3, -1. So we're going to go to the right on the x-axis. 1, 2, 3 times. And down 1 on the y-axis. So this is the point 3, -1. And then connect the dots. Connecting the dots. Okay, I kind of missed that second dot, but you saw where I was going. All right. And one thing that I didn't share earlier, which I'll go back and share now to give you some confirmation that you know you're on the right track, is this idea of lines and slopes. So if you have a line with a positive slope means your graph will look like it's rising from left to right. A negative slope, your graph falls from left to right. And then you have the zero slope. Zero slope, there is no flux in your graph, no inclination nor declination. And then finally, you have when the slope is undefined, is because you have a vertical line. Horizontal lines have a zero slope, vertical lines have an undefined slope. All right, just wanted to add that into this. I'm in my old creaky chair, so it's like that creepy grandpa. It just makes all kind of noise. But anyways, a little slight deterrent. Slope-intercept form of an equation of a line. All right, so we have y equal mx plus b. I told you earlier that the slope-intercept form always leads to slope-intercept form, where b is the y-intercept. B is the y-intercept, and it can be plotted on the graph as 0 movement on the x-axis, but B movement on the y-axis. And your slope is still denoted by the lowercase m. All right. It says find the slope m and y-intercept b of the equation. All right, so first of all, it gave you this equation and it asks you to find the slope and the y-intercept. This equation is not in y-intercept form. Y-intercept form is y equal mx plus b. The y is not alone and everything else is not on one side by itself. So we need to move stuff around and make sure we're getting y by itself. First of all, this 3x does not need to be over here. So get over there with that 6. How are we going to move that is by subtracting that guy over because it's positive. So now we have negative 2y equal to negative 3x plus 6. The y is still not 100% alone. We need to get rid of this negative 2 from this side by dividing every single term by negative 2. So we have y equals 3/2 x minus 3. Y equals 3/2 x minus 3. Now remember, we said the slope will always be the coefficient of the variable x. So the slope is 3/2, and the y-intercept is the constant term of that equation. And the constant term, a constant term is a term that does not have a variable attached to it. B equals negative 3. And that is your y-intercept. All right. Good stuff. Moving forward, let's go on. General form, when you have x and y on the same side of the equal sign and your constant on the other side. That's what general form is. Alright, so it says graph the linear equation 3x plus 2y equals 6 by finding its intercepts. Alright, so to find intercepts, alright, it's pulling back all information, but I'm just going to throw in a quick little recap. Find x-intercepts. What do we know about all x-intercepts? The y value equals 0. And for all y-intercepts, what do we know? The x value equals 0. So while I'm working on finding the x-intercept, I'm going to set y equal to 0. So I have 3x plus 2 times 0 equals 6. I put that straight into that equation that it gave me. And I'm going to simplify it. That goes to 0. 0 times anything is 0. So we have 3x equals 6. Solving for x, we have x equals 2. So the x-intercept is the point 2, 0. Now the y-intercept, similar format, but this time your x value is 0. 2y equals 6. That piece there goes to 0. Now I'm going to solve for the y. And I have y equals 3. So my y-intercept is 0, 3. And the problem said graph it by finding the intercepts. Remember that this is the y-axis. The vertical axis is the y-axis. The horizontal axis is the x-axis. All right, I'm going to go 2 for the x-intercept. I'm going 2 points on the x-axis. 1, 2. Found the x-intercept. Plot that guy. For the y-intercept, I'm going three movements on the y-axis. 1, 2, 3. Plot that point. Connect the dots. Now, just looking at that graph, would you say that graph has a positive slope, negative slope, zero slope, or undefined slope? You're looking at it, it's falling from left to right, so indeed that has a negative slope. Good stuff. Graphing a vertical line. Vertical line is, we know the slope of a vertical line is undefined. Slope of a vertical line is undefined. All right, and it's easy to graph a vertical line. Whatever the x value is, you make that amount of movements on the x-axis, and then at that location, draw yourself a vertical line. That is the line x equal -2. Easy enough, I know. Now here's a little one to try to slide in. It's horizontal line does the same thing, but with horizontal lines, you make movements on the y-axis. So this says, I'm gonna make a B movements on the y-axis. So right here, if that was my B movements, that's the line y equal B. And then this problem says, find the equation of a horizontal line containing the point 2, -4. All right, it's asking for a horizontal line. So I'm going to go and identify the y value. And my y value is -4. So I'm just going to write y equal -4. And boom. There is the equation of your horizontal line. If the problem would have said, find the equation of a vertical line containing the point 2, -4, you would have went to the x value and put x equal 2. Now, Parallel lines. Parallel lines. Here's some take home, right? Yeah, I see all that math jargon right there, but that throws some people off. This is what I want you to remember. For parallel lines, all right, parallel lines, they have the same slope. Parallel lines have the same slope and different y-intercepts. Same slopes and different y-intercepts. And I'm reading all the math jargon there. Two non-vertical lines are parallel if and only if their slopes are equal and they have different y-intercepts. Just keep in mind they must have the same slope and their y-intercepts must be different. All right. That thing missing some stuff. We're missing, I think it's a plus sign that goes right here and an equal sign that goes right here and a minus sign that goes right here. I don't know how that happened. All right. Find the equation for the line that contains the points -1, 3 and is parallel to the line 3x plus 4y equal 12. All right. Easy enough. But before we get to doing anything, we need to write this equation that's in general form into slope-intercept form so that we can identify the slope. Because you want to identify the slope. By the way, the symbol for parallel lines looks like that. All right, so find the equation for the line that contains the point -1, 3 and is parallel to the line 3x plus 4y equal 12. All right, let's go ahead and get this in slope-intercept form, meaning we want all of the information on one side away from the y value. All right, so this 3x need to go into the other side with your disrespectful self, okay? And how we're going to move that 3x? By subtracting. Thank you. So we have 4y equal -3x plus 12. The y is not completely alone, so we need to divide every term by 4. So we have y equals -3/4 x plus 3. All right. So the slope of that line is -3/4. Now the slope of the parallel line is what? -3/4, because parallel lines, they have the same slopes. So now we have a point and we have a slope. So we will use point slope to calculate the equation of your line. So we have y equals -3/4 x minus the x value of -1 plus the y value of +3, and simplify. Y equal -3/4 x plus 1 plus 3. Distribute y equal -3/4 x minus 3/4 plus 3. Final simplification. Y equal -3/4 x. And then we have 3 is the same thing as saying 12/4. So that would be plus 9/4. And there's another way that you can do this using the slope-intercept form, but I'm only going to show you this one way, not so that I don't confuse you. Perpendicular lines. Perpendicular lines are lines that meet at a 90-degree angle And the math jargon for perpendicular lines is two non-vertical lines are perpendicular if and only if the product of their slopes is -1. I agree with that 100%, but this right here is what I want you to take away. Note, perpendicular lines, slopes are reciprocals, and slopes have opposite signs, meaning one of them is positive, the other is negative. So quick example, if the slope of this line is 2/5, what would be the slope of a perpendicular line? The slope of a perpendicular line, I'm just going to put the symbol for perpendicular there. They have to be reciprocals and they have to have opposite signs. So I know it has to be negative, and I also know the reciprocal means to flip the numerator and denominator of whatever your number is. So, boom. All right, you need to know that. That's what, knowing that helps make this piece make sense. The product of their slopes is -1. So whenever you multiply those two slopes together, you'll get -1. All right. Let's put this back right here. Put this back right here. Put this back right here. I'm not going to go through the writing of all this stuff again. I'm just going to slide back a few slides. I'm going to write this same equation again. Y equal -3/4 x plus 3. Uh-oh. Oh, no. I didn't mean to do that. Take me back. Come on. Okay. All right. So after we go through and simplify all of this, we have y equals -3/4 x plus 3 when we write this equation in slope-intercept form, and the slope of this line is -3/4. So the perpendicular slope is equal to positive 4/3. And again, you have a point and you have a slope. You use the point slope form, toss that guy into the form for this point slope form stuff, and watch the magic happen while you do some work. All right, so y equal 4/3 times x minus -1 plus 3. Y equals 4/3 times x plus 1 plus 3. Y equals 4/3 x. We're distributing now. Plus 4/3 plus 3. And finally, y equals 4/3 x. 3 is the same thing as 9/3. So that's 4 plus 9 is 13/3. Boom. And that right there is the